Hello, everybody. This is your weekly astrology forecast for Friday, October 22nd, all the way through Thursday, October 28th. And we are coming off a very, very powerful full moon, and not to mention just a really interesting month of October, where we've had a lot of energy that's kind of been at a standstill, and we've really been waiting for a lot of these planets to just freaking move forward already. And our wish has been granted as we now have Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto, and Mercury that have all stationed and moved direct. So we are in some very interesting times. We might not be feeling the shift quite yet in energy, but things are going to start moving forward whether we want them to or not. If you guys haven't met me yet, my name is Yelena Crawford. Welcome to my channel, Yelena Crawford Astrology, and super happy to have you guys here. So make sure to tap the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. I do weekly astrology forecasts as well as educational astrological content. So just a couple things before we begin. I do use traditional Hellenistic astrology with a blend of modern psychological to give you the most holistic picture possible of the weekly energies that are in front of us. If you are interested in finding more of my content, please make sure to add me over on Instagram. I create all my own graphics and do little mini readings and everything over there. You can find me. I'll link up on the screen right now. It's Yelena Crawford Astrology. I also have a monthly cosmic guide that I send out to everyone that's on my email list. So if you'd like to join my newsletter list, then head on over to my website, yelenacrawford.com, where there will be a little pop-up on the screen and you can enter in your email address to join. I do want to add to, before the forecast begins, that this is a general overview, okay? So this is going to be general. Not all of these energies may resonate with you, and I do want to emphasize that only what is a possibility in your specific birth chart may play out for you. So not all these energies may resonate, like I said. And if you are somebody that's interested in maybe making sense or decoding your chart a little bit further, then, or maybe you're navigating some big shift or change in your life and you want to make sense of it and have an understanding of the energies, then you can schedule a personal reading with me by heading on over to my website. That is yelenacrawford.com. All the information is also in the description box below. But enough of that. I know you guys are probably super ready to get onto the material. So let's go ahead and begin. I am going to go ahead and share my screen with you this week. I'm not going to pull up a presentation because there really are not a whole lot of aspects, you guys. And I think that one chart on the screen will do. So we're going to go ahead and just marinate in this. Like I said, there's really not a whole lot of significant big transits. There are a couple though, so I don't want to say that quite yet, or else I would have probably had to do a forecast for this week, right? So nothing major going on this week, other than the fact that the sun is moving into Scorpio, and then the elephant in the room is that Mars is squaring Pluto, which is huge, right? That's pretty big, and it's very, very, very powerful. But ultimately, there's usually a lot more busyness, a lot more shifts in energy. But really, you guys, when you really think about it, we just went through a major shift. Okay. In the past couple weeks, we had, like I said, Pluto and Saturn stationed direct. We made it all the way through the retrograde period. Now we just have to traverse through the shadow, which we will not exit until, I believe, November 2nd. So Mercury is now direct. And we're starting to feel that energy slowly wane, and we will feel it more and more and more as the days pass, as well as Jupiter. So a lot of inward expansion. There's been a lot of inner focus, a lot of introspection, a lot of shifts and changes that started way back April, May, and we're going to start seeing a lot of things reverse, a lot of things change, a lot of things start moving forward. And like I said, this is whether you want them to or not. And I don't mean that to scare anyone, but this is going to be a big time when we probably should be more open to flexibility and change, even though the sun is moving through a fixed sign of Scorpio. It's going to help us to transform those things that we hold on to so tightly, the things that we fear, and some of those deeper, darker behaviors and patterns within each and every one of us. So, This is an excellent week. I really do believe that because it's really helping to give us the opportunity to sink in to a lot of the changing energies that we've just moved through. There's been a lot of dynamics with Pluto involved, including that big, powerful full moon just a couple days ago. And there's just been a lot going on, you guys, right? I'm sure a lot of you are starting to feel it, maybe feeling a lot of pressure in your internal life or your external life. We really are going to be kind of sinking in, allowing these energies to gain momentum so that they can take hold. Because at this point, like I mentioned, we might not quite be feeling the forward momentum, the clarity, the progress, or things moving along in the ways in which we'd like them to. For some people, maybe it is. Maybe you've already started to feel a big shift. But that is to come. So that's definitely exciting, right? I guess we can all say that. Now, we're moving to Friday. That's what we have up on the screen right now is Friday, October 22nd. So the big dynamic that really starts off the weekly forecast for this week is that we have Mars, which is still conjunct the sun. It is combust. I noticed, just going back to the full moon really quickly, I was wondering, I want to learn in my life what a combust Mars might signify. And for me, it was the full moon. So the moon in Aries in my 10th house. So there was an emotional desire and an emotional need to be productive with my business and everything that I'm doing out in the world. But there was a strong pull to just rest and retreat as the sun and Mars were in my fourth house. And I feel like my motivation, my drive, and my energy just wasn't there. And Mars combusts the sun. I think maybe it could result in low energy or maybe burnout, over excessively exerting your force or energy and burning out. So there's a lot of different ways that this could play out, but I was definitely feeling it for sure. But right here, we've got Mars at the 24th degree in the sign of Libra. And so it's in that third decan. It is moving through and soon to enter Scorpio and future forecasts. So then we've got, look at this, a straight shot over here. We've got Pluto at 24 degrees, now stationed direct in the sign of Capricorn. So we have this square dynamic, and we know that squares are full of tension. They can be a little bit uncomfortable and they can spur us to take action in a certain way, shape, or form. Now, Mars energy is very, very volatile. It can be impatient, it can be a little bit impulsive and aggressive, confrontational. There can be some anger. And with this Pluto combination, it's like a simmering, boiling to a head, explosive type of rage that we could see in certain instances. So I just want to start this whole dynamic off with a disclaimer. And again, not to scare anyone or frighten anyone, but, and I want to bring back what I said earlier, that it's only, the things I'm about to tell you are only a potential specifically for you if there are indicators in your chart that that could be a potential for you. Okay. So that is first and foremost extremely important. Back on topic here, we've got the potential for explosive anger, maybe just a boiling frustration that results in rage or anger. It's definitely a strong potential that dynamics with other people, your interrelational dynamics, one-to-one conversations with people, clients, just anybody that you come in contact with in the everyday world, friends, family members, lovers, whatever it might be, there's a potential there that they could get really heated and escalate very, very quickly. So I would highly recommend going into the weekend when this is going to be most active as Mars is passing through the square, that we just maybe be very aware first and foremost of what is worth our energy and what's not. There is a strong potential here to really get involved egotistically in certain dynamics. With this Mars Pluto combination, it's definitely a very competitive energy where somebody might want power or want to win so unbelievably bad that they're willing to do whatever, whenever, like whatever it takes to make that happen. And we might be seeing this whether it's us and we might recognize that within ourselves and really not like it, and it'd be very uncomfortable that we have to face an aspect of ourselves like this, or we might notice it in the workplace or something with other people, or we might notice it with family members. So just keep an eye out for that. And if you do find yourself in one of these heated debates or volatile circumstances, I would recommend tempering your own ego. If you don't feel, or if you feel like for some reason you need to win, is it really worth it? And kind of bringing that more into focus is my suggestion for you, because we also have the sun right here at what's called the anaretic degree. You can't really see the two right here, but it's at the 29th degree. And the anaretic degree can sometimes be a crisis point, especially when it's in cardinal energy. And being so close knit to Mars right here, they're kind of inhabiting the same space within the same 5 degrees of each other. And Scorpio, or sorry, the sun is like nearing that threshold of the cusp between Libra and Scorpio, right? And wherever the sun moves, it shifts our awareness and our perception of different energies and frequencies, right? In our everyday lives, it shifts our focus and the whole dynamic. It really shifts and changes the energy. So we're kind of on that threshold at this time point when we've got this intensity in the air with Mars square Pluto. So really, it may shift our awareness and our motivations towards more depth and passion and a sense of emotional intensity in the dynamics that we're involved with other people, which just kind of adds to the energy. And it's going to require a certain level of mastery. That's what comes along with the 29th degree of any sign when a planet is placed there. It requires a certain level of mastery. So what have we learned? What is worth fighting for? What's not? When do we need to speak our truth? When do we really, probably it would more so benefit us to hold back, not be vulnerable, not open ourselves up for fear of being taken advantage of or being involved with the wrong person or wrong situation. So whatever way this plays out, just make sure that you're super focused and putting your energy towards something that's really worth it, because there's a lot that has the strong potential to really escalate right now. We might be with this energy on the brink of feeling tired of keeping the peace, tired of biting our tongue and saving face just to make other people happy, just to make ourselves look better, and feeling really passionate and fired up with this energy, being really focused and driven to kind of find the truth of the matter, or maybe express your truth or stand up for what you believe in, right? So that's some of these energies that you could be feeling or could be expressed around you. I really do think that intense situations have the potential to really push people over the edge over this weekend. So that's why I'm saying just kind of like mind your P's and Q's if at all possible. I know I certainly am going to. I work in a restaurant and I always see these energies playing out at the bar that I bartend at. I work in a fine dining restaurant. And it's inevitable that at the 20-seat bar that we have, there's got to be somebody that has a birth chart where these energies are playing out or activating them. And I always figure it out. I always find it somehow, right? Whether it be me watching it with one of my colleagues or if it's somebody that I'm dealing with personally. So I just like beg and hope that I don't have to deal with some craziness this weekend, but at least I'll learn, right? So this has the potential, like I said, to push people over the edge, to make them make really impulsive, irrational decisions, act out of anger and rage and frustration, maybe out of jealousy or resentment or something like that. So all of those deep, dark emotions could potentially be brought to the focus. And we could be seeing that exhibited out in the collective. I'm just going to give you a couple different ways that this energy could play out, because there is literally so many ways of these combinations of archetypes. And I want to be as vast as possible to help you identify it in your own life. Now, maybe you could be potentially taken advantage of in some way by somebody in a position of power or authority over you, like a boss, or maybe even a colleague, or maybe it's a parent or something like that. It really could be anyone. And you feel uncomfortable because maybe you're forced into doing something that you don't believe in or that you don't agree with. There could even be a potential for intense run-ins with police officers. Mars rules over police. There's definitely a potential for us seeing violence in the news, explosions and fire. Um, these are all things that are definitely a potential. I did look in previous, the last time we had this occurrence was November 19th of 29, or sorry, November 6th of 2019, when Mars and Libra squared Pluto in Capricorn last, and there was a lot of missile strikes all around the world and just shootings, and that these are the energies that bring those types of things. And that's why I tell you to just be careful, not to scare or, instill fear in anyone, but now, this energy can definitely, though, help you to plow through intensities or challenges or difficulties and even insecurities. And there is a strong potential to really transform certain aspects of yourself or certain dynamics in your life, because Pluto is a transformer. It's all about the death and rebirth process, which the death can be painful, but the rebirth so liberating and freeing, right? It's a regenerative type of energy. So if we think about dynamics in our lives, which were extremely intense traumas that we've been through, like for me, maybe it was like a really volatile and challenging relationship with someone that I had in my past that was very narcissistic and manipulative. And that discomfort and that darkness and that fear that I went through, it changed me to the person that I am today. It was extremely cathartic, but it was so unbelievably transformative. And I would never undo it. Right. But those are Plutonian types of situations. When we go through the craziest, most intense situations where they transform us into a different person, and usually for the better for the most part. Right. So we already kind of discussed that there's a potential for fires, explosions, attacks. There's definitely a potential for sexual assaults. Pluto does rule over violent sex and rape and things like that, as much as I hate to say it. Ruthless competition, like I said before it all. So winning, fighting, surviving at all costs. I find it very interesting as well that sometimes like the shows that you're watching on TV or maybe the books that you're reading or whatever, they kind of like line up with certain transits sometimes. And as I'm like researching this transit and contemplating what I wanted to say in this video about it, I realized the show I'm watching right now is very Mars square Pluto. I'm watching You on Netflix. If you guys have seen it, it's just so crazy how fitting that is for these circumstances right here. So interesting, right? It's not usually a show I would normally watch, but I got hooked very easily. Very scorpionic too, I would say. So another way is that this could potentially be drudging up some deep psychological wounds and issues within you, including some maybe traumatic circumstances that really shaped and molded who you are and why you operate in the world the ways in which you do, related to maybe your basic needs for survival. Mars definitely represents the need to survive at all costs, right? And how it how these needs for survival based off of your past conditioning and traumas is driving your behavioral patterns in your everyday life. So maybe you weren't able to like properly assert yourself or something as a child. Maybe you had a parent that was always dominating you or something like that. So you grow up and you recognize that you either are one of two ways. You either have to overexert yourself and dominate your force onto another person because you were never able to do that. So it's your way of expressing it now, but usually it's very unconscious until we have a Pluto transit and it's brought to our attention and we deal with the pain and the discomfort and we transform it. Or maybe you literally take the Libra approach and you are just like, I'm not asserting myself at all. I don't care what that means, if I'm made fun of or if I'm walked all over or if I don't get what I want. um, yeah, so you're more passive in your approach. So these types of things can also definitely be brought up right now as well. So anywho, moving on from that, Pluto is more dominant over Mars in this situation. Why is that? Pluto is an outer planet, so it is much slower. And when Pluto transits, if it's transiting certain areas of our chart, it is a long lasting transit. Sometimes it takes about 14 to 30 years just to move through one zodiac sign. So for me, for instance, I've got my sun in Cancer right over here at 24 degrees, and Pluto's just been going back and forth. I'm sorry, I've got my moon in Cancer. Pluto's been going back and forth over my ascendant and my moon all year, all year long. So it's like a long-term, very inner transformative circumstances that you will be going through that you might not even notice until it's all said and done and you were a changed person. So yeah, like a lot of triggering, uncomfortable circumstances that are working with you on a very, very deep level. So basically, Pluto is dominating Mars here, which means that a lot of the maybe anger or aggression or um, like our rage within us, or even it could have to do with our sexual expression, because there's a lot of people that, maybe they suppress like some very intense sexual energy because maybe it scared them at one point in their life and they don't want to accept that maybe they have that darkness within them, and it's powerful and it's intense and it's like barbaric sometimes, right? But it exists out there. It definitely exists in a lot of people. But a lot of times we suppress that. And when there's a Mars square Pluto transit, there's the potential, because this combination is very volcanic. So anything that, Pluto has been dominating has the potential to rise up and boil up to the surface and explode. So I see a lot of these things going boom during this time period. So just keep an eye out for all of that as well. Let's go ahead and move on. I'm going to go ahead and clear this from the screen right now. And I am going to fast forward us to Saturday the 23rd. Let's see here. Okay, so Saturday the 23rd, we've got the sun right here entering the sign of Scorpio. So it's at that 0 degree mark. This is the very beginning of Scorpio, where a new chapter begins, shifting our awareness, shifting our perception into a whole nother realm of life. We're moving into another season of this journey that we traverse through in the 365-day calendar year, right? The sun moves through all 30 degrees of each astrological sign within about a month's time period, moving about 1 degree per day. So through November, the sun in Scorpio is going to be squaring Saturn, which can be a little bit challenging. It's going to be opposing Uranus, activating the Saturn square Uranus dynamic that's been going on all year, that will come exact one more time at the end of December. And it's also going to be in a nice sextile with Pluto, which is a nice change of pace from the square that it just recently moved through. So those are just some interesting dynamics that are going to be happening with the sun moving through Scorpio that we can expect in this next month. It's also going to be involved in a lunar eclipse, the very first Taurus lunar eclipse at the end of the month. And we're going to get into all these things in the monthly forecast, as well as breaking it down even further in the weekly forecast that I have. So getting into Scorpio season, just a tad bit here, during Libra season, we may tend to brush things off to the side, right? A little bit more, maybe tiptoe, walk on eggshells. We're a little bit more willing to do that because we want to keep the peace at all costs with other people. This just is part of that, Libran type of energy, but not in Scorpio season. It changes the vibe quite a bit in Scorpio season. And the intensities that are building within that we may begin to notice, they're not going to allow for that, to brush things off to the side, to keep the peace necessarily. And if they do, there is a potential that could build up within you, which is another signature of Scorpio energy, where they tend to bottle up and hold on to these intense inner emotions for fear of not trusting other people with them, or not trusting themselves to be vulnerable, or being overly paranoid and not wanting other people to see the intensity that exists within them. And these are some of the things that we might witness or go through, but we want to make sure to express them properly, because that can create a lot of toxicity within the body, where we have a hard time passing energy through the body, and it can create sickness, it can create dis-ease, anxiety, restless nights, all kinds of things. I could go on and on and on. So your willpower during this next 30-day sojourn and your determination are definitely going to increase. There's going to be this laser focus in whatever the Scorpio area of your house is, okay? Scorpios are so gifted in the sense that they are able to just focus and hone in on something. And there's so much determination and willpower, especially we've got Mars about to enter into Scorpio too. And Mars, that's its home spot. So it does really well there, and it's going to be amped up and really help to amp up the sun as well, which is going to be really, really nice for all of us. Unless, of course, we have challenging placements that are associated with that area of our chart, then it might be a little bit more difficult. If we are wronged, or if somebody does something to hurt us or take advantage of us, it's going to definitely come with a price. It's going to be a little bit more challenging. And I think that a lot of this narrative collectively that's going on, there's going to be more and more and more secrets and things revealed, and more dynamics of power being forced upon us, different restrictions, different power plays that are taking place, but it's going to be a lot more challenging for us to deal with it, right? A lot of us anyways. So we're going to see a lot of situations that are very intense, where there's a lot of aggression, brute force, and things like that. So shadows coming up to the surface, it's going to really piss people off. That is definitely for sure. Now, moving on from that, in autumn, which in the Northern Hemisphere is Scorpio season, right? It is when the darkness has now dominated, or started to take over in Libra season, but it starts to sustain itself. It's on the increase, but darkness is sustained, autumn is sustained. We have now moved completely into the season of autumn, and things start breaking down, things start decomposing, the decomposition process begins, there's death. And with that, there's this realization that not everything is permanent, right? And that it could potentially bring paranoia, fear. There's a certain air of mystery when things start breaking down in the fall. If you just look at it from a very general perspective, it's like, where does all the creatures outside go? Like, obviously we know they hibernate and all that stuff, but it kind of makes you wonder, what lives, what dies, how do they exist, how do they make it through the winter? And there's, it's a fear, it's a paranoia, it's a mystery, and those are all very scorpionic things. And in Libra, we're so much more concerned with diplomacy, with keeping the peace. We're Scorpio season. We have these like radars on top of us that are detecting any bullshit that might be going on around us. And we get suspicious. We might get paranoid. We might be a little bit more guarded. We have a difficult time trusting other people. These may be things that you see elevated during this time period, or else it might be things that are brought to your attention that you may need to work through within yourself, because ultimately, just like this autumn Scorpio season, there is a major death that's taking place here that's very misunderstood. Just like Scorpio is a sign that's very misunderstood, because in order for any transformation to be had or any rebirth to occur, there has to be a death. There's a season, a rhyme, and a reason for everything, right? So we really need these times to take a look at the darker aspects of society, the darker aspects of ourselves, the darker aspects that exist in the people surrounding us, because ultimately these people are just a mirror of the energy that we hold, right? The energy that the collective holds. So it's interesting to, have awareness, to take a look at some of these things during this time period. I wanted to read to you guys really quickly the inside degrees for 1 degree of Scorpio. Now, if you don't know what the inside degrees are, they are like channeled messages that are relative to every single degree of this zodiac. And I like them sometimes to just refer to, and for some reason I felt called to looking at the 1st degree of Scorpio, where the sun is going to be, to just get an idea of the general energy associated with this area of the chart. So it says, a tunnel through a mountain. When darkness comes, you need more darkness if you're ever going to find the light. As the struggle of Earth existence descends upon you, you must find a way to harness the power of that struggle to turn death into rebirth. But it's so pressurized and absolutely relentless a path to walk. Everything you meet reflects the same destiny dilemma, for you are being pulled through the collective nightmare by an immense evolutionary force. And that means feeling everything, experiencing all of it, and letting everything go. This is literally like what we're about to move through, you guys, in Scorpio season. I felt like this was so perfect. And it says, those pulled into such a radical track develop core perseverance magnificently and learn to be light while super heavy, and to stay loose while bearing down in tight passages. Eventually, glorious things happen, and you can emerge into a whole other reality, knowing how purposeful every step has been, that all of it was necessary and redemptively built a character strength of a mighty fiber, as you know it would. So I just thought that was so beautiful and so perfect for Scorpio season and this darkness that we are all moving into, and not to be fearful of it, because it is so regenerative and it makes us stronger. And our ability to persevere through challenges in the future is like, 100 times more than other people when we're able to face these harder aspects of life and ourselves and move through them. We get stronger and stronger each and every time. Then it was interesting because I'm scrolling through Instagram and I came across the perfect quote for Scorpio season that a guy named Phil Good posted. And it said, I danced with darkness and learned its moves. Now I stand in the light and can no longer be seduced. And I felt like that was another perfect indicator of what Scorpio season's really all about. So some of our own darkness, what might they include? Just to give you guys a couple different examples. I'm sure you can figure it out on your own, but sometimes it might be our desires. It could be our own motivations not being right or in the right place, right? Or our own intentions for certain things that we might need to take a closer look at and adjust accordingly. We may have manipulative tendencies within us, or we hold on to a lot of jealousy and envy, or potentially greed. Maybe there's a strong need for power and control in a lot of situations and circumstances in our life, or there could potentially be some addictions or certain things like that we have a hard time moving through. But one amazing thing about Scorpio season, which is a reason we should absolutely have no fear, is because it has a lot to do with shadow integration. And I think each year, if you allow it, right, because everybody's got free will, a lot of people don't choose to work through a lot of these aspects of themselves. But each Scorpio season, it helps us to integrate a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more of our own personal shadow. So that's what you have for Scorpio season, just to start us off with that. Now, we're going to move on here. This is going to probably be a quick one right here. We are going to look at one final transit that's going to be taking place on Tuesday. So let me animate us forward just a couple days. Now, this isn't the most horrible, but it's definitely something that we should have brought to our attention. And this is going to be, let's see here. This is going to be Venus over here in the sign of Sagittarius. Can you believe Venus is already at 20 degrees? Almost all the way through, entering that 3rd decan. And here it is making a square over to Neptune. So like I said, this isn't like the most horrible dynamic by any means, but it definitely can be confusing, and it can lead us down the wrong path sometimes. So it's something that we definitely want to be aware of. Now, you want to watch that you're definitely not overindulging if that's something that you are prone to in any way, shape, or form, whether that be sex or gambling or eating or drugs or alcohol, whatever it is for you. You want to watch out for that, because especially during this time of high intensity where we just had this Mars square Pluto, this might be a dynamic where somebody might want to escape from the truth of reality and the difficult circumstances that maybe they've been trying to navigate, things that might not be going their way, information that may have been brought to the surface that was uncomfortable, or however it's playing out for those individuals. But this energy is that of overindulgence, is that of escapism. Neptune is very highly associated with drugs and alcohol, and escapism in general, and victim, playing the victim card, being the martyr, where Venus is highly associated with the things that bring us pleasure, what brings us joy. And sometimes that is associated with overindulgence in whatever way, shape, or form that shows up for you. This is an aspect that also has the potential to allow us to over idealize and over fantasize our beliefs about the world, about our dreams for the future, about our current circumstances, about the ways in which something may or may not play out. Maybe it's a certain person, because Venus also rules relationships. So we want to watch out that we are being overly unrealistic about the dynamics or the circumstances that are in our lives at this time. So just be a little bit more careful, especially like if there's somebody that's in your life at this time, if they just maybe came into your life, maybe you're dating, or maybe you're in business dealings, because Venus rules over finances and money and things like that. So just be careful, tread lightly. There are a lot of dynamics in the air right now relative to manipulation, power struggles. And then this brings an air of confusion where we're not seeing things clearly. There's a big lack of clarity that we could potentially be going through. Now, collectively, maybe for some, they might have previous belief systems about maybe the way that the world was, but they're starting to see truths and it's starting to click for them, right? They're having that like third eye activation, and things are starting to become very clear, and they're seeing them in ways in which they maybe didn't before. There's this disillusionment that's going on, which can be a really painful pill to swallow, right? And it requires us to really shift and change our beliefs about certain things, which can bring a certain level of discomfort, which Venus doesn't like. In a book that I was reading, I can't remember which one it was, but they were saying that the combination of Venus square to Neptune, Venus square to Neptune, they want to see the pretty painted picture of certain dynamics in life, including relationships. But then comes the disillusionment that follows the fantasy and the escaping into a fantasy world of imagination and untruths, right? That follows. And that's when you realize that the person that you're with, you recognize them for everything that they are, warts and all. But Venus doesn't want to realize these types of things. Venus and Neptune just wants to see the beauty that's not the truth. So that'll probably give you a better idea of how that could potentially play out with that little example right there. But only wanting peace and harmony and joy, and just realizing that that's not quite what it is right now. It's not quite the dynamics. Everything isn't all love and light and namaste, right? And you got to be real sometimes, especially when you're on this spiritual journey. I think we all kind of go through that chapter of not wanting to see the darkness. So this could potentially be a little bit more challenging for somebody that might be in that type of mindset. We might really have some unrealistic expectations about someone or something that really just needs to be adjusted in some way, right? It's going to require a little bit of adjusting, which, like I said, can be a little bit more uncomfortable. So just be flexible if possible, especially with you maybe any rigid or dogmatic belief systems that you might have, spiritual belief systems, ways in which you see the world, your own worldviews. just be a little bit more flexible, because a lot of stuff is going to shift and change in the coming years. Even if we think we know what's going on, just be open to that not being exactly what it is. And then in a couple of days after this, I'm not even going to really show it on the screen, but on October 28th, it'll be really nice because we'll have Venus move into the sextile over here at 22 degrees with Jupiter. And that is a really beautiful and harmonious aspect. We've got the lesser benefic, Venus connecting with the bigger benefic of Jupiter. So this is really beneficial energy that if you are willing to see things from a different perspective, if you are willing to work with these types of dynamics and energies, then the energy is going to be really supportive of that. You might have a lot of opportunities or people that come in that help show you things differently or help to instill your faith again in whatever it is that you've been struggling with. So this is really, really nice. I think that this is also a very nice aspect for money. There could potentially be some abundance that you receive in whatever areas of life that this is affecting for you. This could potentially be very, very harmonious for relationship dynamics with other people, whether it be love, whether it be romance, whether it be friendship. Maybe you meet someone or there is an opportunity for you to grow or expand on the relationships that you already have. I would also say this is a great day to just feel and look good. Beauty is all Venusian, and Jupiter is going to magnify that as well. So a lot of people are probably going to be feeling confident, feeling really good, and feeling free to express themselves in whatever way they choose. Yeah, so that's kind of what I see for the week ahead. Like I said, it's a really, really great time, you guys, to just allow the changes to kind of gain momentum and to take hold, for us to start seeing things shifting and changing. I know, for instance, my parents are renovating their home, and my dad just recently said to me, he's like, I just wish that something was getting done on the renovations. And they're like, literally nothing has been progressing. This Mercury retrograde was taking place in his fourth house of home, property, renovations, all of those things that you do to your land or the places that you own. And literally everything is just at a standstill. They can't get the parts that they need. They don't have the work. There's challenges with the insurance company, the pricing, all this stuff. So yeah, I just told them, I'm like, hold off. Coming weeks, we're going to see momentum. Things are going to get moving. We're going to be moving into eclipse season. So I'm really excited to discuss some of these energies. This week, I urge you, just rest if you feel like you need to rest. We have a waning moon. The energy is, waning. We just reached the peak intensity of the full moon. So if you feel you need to rest and take care of yourself, be a little bit more internalized and introspective, then please honor that. Try to mind your P's and Q's this weekend. If you don't have to speak up and, cause any disharmony, then don't. But if you feel like you need to stand your ground, then by all means, I think the energy supports that as well. But thank you guys so much. I hope that you enjoyed this week's forecast. And again, if you haven't subscribed, please make sure to tap the subscribe button below, as well as the little bell icon next to it, to be notified of all the videos that I post. You will help so much with a small growing YouTube channel and business if you just tap the like button below. Literally, it just helps to get us into the algorithm and be seen, so this information can kind of disperse itself out to other people. I would be so forever grateful. And I really, really love to hear from you guys in the comments section below. Again, if you are looking to make more sense of all of these dynamics in your chart, maybe talk about the year ahead or whatever, please do not hesitate to reach out to me at info@YelenaCrawford.com for questions. And all the reading information is below in the description box. Thank you guys so very much. I will see you soon. I'm going to actually be putting out a video on Mercury, the planet Mercury, through all 12 zodiac signs. So if you'd like to learn more about yourself, keep an eye out. That'll be out in the next couple days. But for now, peace and namaste, my friends. I love you guys so very much. Thank you. Thank you for making it possible for me to do this.